I was in VPTA, then I was in APTA, then I was a part of AOMPT on conference committee. And you just start interacting and it leads to something, maybe not now, but maybe down the road. And if you
Yeah.
truly are a good person and you interact with people and you get something from them and you can give something to them, you build a connection.
This episode is brought to you by, well, us, PT Pintcast Media. If you've ever thought about launching a podcast to grow your brand, your clinic, or your business, we can help. Find out more at ptpintcast.com. Here's the question. What separates a good physical therapist from a great one? According to today's guest, it's not just clinical skills or protocols. It's how we think, how we listen, and how we connect. He's grown a 6-clinic practice, mentored through residency and fellowship programs, and worked internationally where words often failed, but connection still happened. Today, he breaks down how strong communication and deeper clinical reasoning can transform not just outcomes, but careers. Get ready to rethink how you think with Kyle Feldman. Well, finally, we're doing this. I feel like whenever I cancel an episode, which is rare, like when I schedule an episode, it's good. But when I cancel, I typically cancel 4 times in a row. It's like whoever I cancel.
So we made it happen.
How do you typically explain to people what you do? Because you do a couple different things in your career.
Yeah, I say that I am a physical therapist who loves physical therapy, which has led me down a lot of paths.
That's unique. I like that. That's good. And I think it's nice because this profession, you can take a lot of paths. There's not just one not necessarily one trajectory. You've made a statement. You've said communication and thinking are the actual real differentiators in physical therapy. What do you mean by thinking about thinking?
Yeah, so metacognition, it's a word that I really love. I learned about it a little bit in school, learned about it a lot more in residency, fellowship. I don't think we could have hit that concept any harder about thinking. And then since then, not just learning with patients, but applying it to me and my wife, me and 2 daughters, me in the business world, me and friends and family, this idea of kind of thinking and reflecting either in action or on action, but just thinking about it and being so much, more systematic and thoughtful of how you just do life.
How does someone learn to do this, right? I mean, it's almost like I feel like you're teaching them how to like maybe do like an out of body, like looking at yourself in a different lens. Like, how does one begin to start thinking about thinking?
That's a good question. So for me, it was, I think sports, I really started to do it because I was a football player in high school and I was a football player in college. I played other sports, but for me to succeed and when I saw myself do better, it's when I knew what I was going to do and knew what the other person was going to do before anyone even did anything. So I had plan A, B, and C figured out. And when plan A and B and C didn't work out, I could quickly react and get plan D. So it started then. And then I realized with PT, you could do the same cookie cutter stuff over and over again. But is that the best for the patient? Is that the answer? And I think when you start to really reflect on how you're interacting with the patient or what the patient's saying to you or not saying to you, but their soft skills, you can really learn things and quickly have other options in place.
Now, you've practiced internationally, right? Often with language barriers. So now you talk about things like soft skills, which aren't just necessarily just the words, but body language, facial expressions, how we say the things that we're saying. How did practicing internationally you really shape your approach to patient interaction and clinical reasoning?
It's amazing. So I was a first-year student at Shenandoah University, which we met when we both were in school. So it's kind of crazy to think how long we've come. And I had the privilege of going my first year to Haiti.
Wow.
It was probably a bad decision. I didn't know what I was doing. We didn't have a good structure. We just really wanted to do it. And we learned a lot of what not to do. But what I did learn is with little resources, if you just care, if you listen, if you get creative, you think outside the box, you can make an impact. And as the years went, we did more trips, got more involved with it. After that, I started teaching a little bit in some different countries, doing some mentorship. And I realized that PT is really about talking. And if you can't talk, how do you talk with your body, with your expressions, and just showing your heart on your face? So that was a big kind of eye-opening experience for that. And then now here in America, whether I'm doing kind of nonprofit work, doing kind of pro bono clinic work where patients maybe can't speak the same language as me, I do what I can. We use translating services, or I just demonstrate. And it's very helpful to have those skills even more when you can't use your words.
So let's shift the location, but not the topic. What have you learned about communication while here in the U.S., while growing and leading, multiple PT practices? Where does communication come in there? What lessons have you learned along the way?
I've learned that I thought I was good at certain things, and then I was quickly humbled. I know that I love leading and mentoring and coaching, and then I learned that not everyone thinks the same way as me, and some people just want to be heard, and that is a harder thing for me to do. I want to change. That's what I've always done. I've always kind of just made change and interacted and just got it done. And now I've got to learn to think and act differently. So for me, that whole metacognition is I've got to think on my feet, not just in the moment, but think about, hey, this person, I need to talk to you differently than the next person. So
Yeah.
I'm carrying over what I learned with patients now to employees in the field.
If someone were listening right now, what would your pitch be for why this physical therapist or student who might be listening should consider getting involved outside of the clinic, whether it's volunteering, mentoring, or leadership roles? You even just said, hey, listen, I probably did it too early, but I bet you still took lessons from that. You said you learned what not to do, and sometimes life is a process of elimination. But what would you say to someone about getting involved outside the clinic?
I honestly had this thought process that I will never close a door. I was going to do anything. I was a yes man when I was in school, right after school. Any opportunity was yes. And for me, it led to so many opportunities to be able to do research, to still mentor, to teach at the university level, residency, fellowship, to be in business, to have my own con ed business, to still do some kind of nonprofit traveling things. So it's opened all the doors. So for me to say yes to things and try things, it helped me know what I loved, what I didn't love, and then helped me down any path I wanted to.
Athelis Revenue Cycle Management gives you full visibility to your money, real-time dashboards, automated billing, and higher collections. No more guessing what's coming in. Shoot me a note and I'll get you connected today. Jimmy@ptpintcast.com. Yeah. And the intangibly tangible thing, I didn't start this podcast to meet tons and tons of people and to get something from that. Really, it was just like, hey, can I learn something? And can I use this platform to show other people how little I know? And then together in 15, 20 minutes, we can learn something together. But I imagine that's also true for you, is if you're not shutting a door, there's also a person you can reach out to later. There's a bridge that you built.
Absolutely. I still have people that I talk to 8 years later that I had met in school or on a mission trip or with business or with a con ed class that I took, because I took so many, or residency. So I still have so many connections. And some people say, how do you know all these people? I did.
Mm-hmm.
I was in VPTA, then I was in APTA, then I was a part of AOMPT on conference committee. And you just start interacting and it leads to something, maybe not now, but maybe down the road. And if you truly are a good person and you interact with people and you get something from them and you can give something to them, you build a connection.
Yeah. So this is sort of maybe an opposition, because people also call them soft skills, right? I gave a presentation once and I was very proud of the title because it was, why are these soft skills so damn hard? And a lot of times I would give people grace, which is like, maybe you weren't taught them, because they're skills, right? So you can be taught them, and then the more you work on them, the more you get better. So you've gone through something very, very manual, right? Something with your hands, something very tangible, residency and fellowship. But how did that manual training, advanced training that way, sharpen your communication or reasoning skills? Because you wouldn't necessarily maybe see that on the brochure, but it's probably there.
It is. When I was in fellowship, the first weekend, Carol Courtney, she was the director of the program at UIC when I was there. Now it's Northwestern. And she would say, this is a clinical reasoning fellowship that includes manual therapy. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And I realized it was so much about, you have to have really good, sharp thinking and good communication and good skills to then figure out the problem. So the manual is a piece of it. The mentorship was the thing that I gained the most from. I always thought I was a good communicator, but when someone's just listening to you and grading your listening, they can find a lot of one sentence you say that completely changes the way the patient understands the whole treatment session. And now that I mentor in our company, we do mentorship with every provider in the beginning of our time with them. And it's funny how you hear one thing that they think they say. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a patient, she came in, I was mentoring, and she had said, I'm a little bit better. And the therapist was like, great. And so I stopped them and I said, what does a little bit better mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, don't say it out loud. I just want you to put a percentage on it. 0 being no change, 100% being perfect. The patient had her number, the therapist had their number, and I had my number based on just a little bit of time I listened. So I asked the therapist to say your number. So she said 30%. I said, I'm going to guess my number, and I'm going to say 5 to 10%. The patient said 5%. 5% better and 30% better. One means we're not on the right track at all. Other ones, maybe we have the right treatment, maybe not the right dose. So your whole plan for that whole session is going to change based on that detail. So asking the right questions, getting to fully be on the same page completely dictates how, if it's 10 sessions of care or 3 sessions of care, no improvement or better in getting their life goals.
Yeah, but you don't get that information and you're not able to make a change in what you're doing unless you ask that question.
Exactly. And then if you can't speak the language, how do you demonstrate it? How do you show it? How do you get buy-in with the assess, treat, reassess model? You have them move, it hurts. You do something and it doesn't hurt anymore. We know that's 75% better. If they do it again and it still hurts, we didn't make enough change. We don't want to convince them they're better. We want to see and show them they're better.
Yeah. If a new grad PT walks in your clinic tomorrow, and you just said you work on mentorship with pretty much everybody, what's the first thing you'd want them to understand about how we as a profession really connect with patients?
It's a really good question. I would say caring. I think if you care, even just a little bit, you're going to put the extra effort in some capacity. You're going to ask that extra question. You're going to spend an extra 30 seconds on that manual therapy. You're going to prescribe the exercise with more detail than 3 sets of 10, which I cannot stand. You're going to think through that concept and actually apply it a little bit higher. So if you put that little extra effort and you care, the patient sees you care. They see that you're individualizing that experience for them. And I think that's just the snowball effect goes from there.
Whether you're a solo PT or running multiple clinics, Empower EMR grows with you. It's flexible, cloud-based, and actually easy to use. See it in action at empoweremr.com. Yeah. So what we do is with every guest is we have a segment called the parting shot, and usually I leave it open-ended. But recently I've been sort of like giving people a final question almost, right? So I'll have yours as this. You've worked in places where verbal communication wasn't an option internationally. Is there a moment that you can think back to, like a real moment with a real human where that changed in how you connect with patients forever? Is there something you draw from? And the reason I'm asking this is I had that experience as a third-year student, and I can still remember it. So I know that there's probably more, but is there one that comes to mind that really changed and that sticks with you?
Can you tell me yours? I'm curious because I know you guys had an awesome trip through your university.
Yeah. So mine was we were assigned a patient at an orphanage in Costa Rica, and my patient was sort of confined to a wheelchair. And I looked at him. Well, I remember on the trip, I remember just thinking, like, I can't wait to show these people in Costa Rica how smart these American students are. And like, wow, look at them, got all this education. And I remember like literally walking away, like a walking, talking cliche is that you get and you learn way more than you're going to teach. Like I thought I was there to show them everything I knew and show off. And very, very quickly you realize that you're going to get way more than you give. And I walked away because the young man that I was sort of assigned to for the 2 weeks was confined to a wheelchair, didn't even own his own clothes. He was in an orphanage. They just like community shared clothes, and he didn't have anything. Happiest kid on the planet. And I was literally like, how like teach me 18-year-old kid while I'm 33 or whatever, how old that was. You, in my eyes, you have nothing. And I'm looking at you going, and you're so happy and fulfilled. And I mean, just saying it out loud started to teach me like, well, I guess the things really aren't the thing, right? They can't be. The things can't be the thing because he has nothing.
Yeah.
And yet he looks and walks and talks and he just beams happiness and was just thrilled for all the things that he did have. So that was a huge lesson that I couldn't wait to show these people in Costa Rica how smart I was as a PT student, and was completely humbled and completely taught that lesson.
That's awesome. I honestly didn't know which way you were going to go. And that's why I wanted to ask you first. And I love that because that is so true. I had one or two of those moments before too. And for me, it's funny because I had two different routes. I had the people where they were not, they were struggling, they were hurting, and no one had been able to help them. And we do something, whether it be a technique or an educational idea, something, and like you see the light bulb go off, and that doesn't need a language. You see it, and you see them walk out of there like, wow, I think my life can be better now. Those are cool. But for me, the one that I use in my Con Ed courses, I use this example because it made me think about metacognition 10 times over. And that's why I push it in every aspect of my life. So we were in Haiti, and this was when I was actually with Shandong University, and it was my second year. And it wasn't necessarily a PT trip. We just spent one day doing PT because I'm pretty adamant and stubborn, and I really wanted to do it. So we did it. So we went to a clinic that was there, and I just grinded in the clinic, and I loved it. And I had some students with me. We had this lady, she was using a walker. And so we had her do like cone touches and some stair and some squats and some really cool things that would be good for a PT clinic. We all felt really accomplished. All the students sat down. It was right before lunch. They sat down, they started eating lunch, and I'm always hot. So I had to go outside and just get some air. And I go outside and I watch this lady. She had to use her walker, get over to a moped because her son came to pick her up. She got on the back of the moped and then had to use one arm to hold her walker and the other arm to hold her son to go on bumpy roads back to her house. And I sat there and I said, we did 30 minutes of wasting her time. We did not improve her. Her challenge of getting to the clinic and leaving the clinic was harder than what we did in the PT session.
Right.
If we had asked the right questions or observed her or really realized what is her life and what are we trying to accomplish, we could have actually done something for her. But I would say we wasted her time. And that was one of my moments where I'm like, we need to do better at really digging deeper into the experience of the patient.
Yeah, that's great advice. So I'll see you at AOMT. We're most likely going to be out there, and that's November. You haven't been there for a couple of years. So let me use you as sort of like a fake commercial, right? Perfect. Why did you go to AOMT? You stopped because of family. So that's a great reason to not go to a conference, trust me. But why would you tell people, no matter where they're in their career, why you would go to the AOMT conference every year and what they can expect there? Even though you haven't been, there's got to be a reason that you're looking forward to going back.
Yeah. I went to CSM a few years. I went to some of the local Virginia conferences in my first few years. I was looking at fellowships. So during my residency year, I went to AOMT, kind of trying to trial which place. And I fell in love. It was all the articles that I was reading, those researchers are there. All the big heavy hitting programs, all the well-known providers were all there, intermingling, hanging out, doing their thing. So I went that year. I went for, I think, 8 years straight. I got involved in the conference committee. I presented 3 times. I hosted the bar crawl. So, PTs work hard, play hard. And that conference is intimate. It's got leaders in the education, in the research, and in the clinical world. It's, to me, the best conference out there. I gain so much from it, and I get humbled every time I'm there because every time I feel like I'm doing all right, I just see someone else who is just killing it. And so it just makes me want to be better. So AOMT is definitely the conference for people who want to think about thinking, clinical reasoning, and improve their manual skills.
Love it. Kyle, thanks so much for the time, man. Appreciate this time and insight.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate you, man.
Like what you heard? Great. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify. You can watch the episodes on YouTube. Or don't. I'm not your boss. You want to specialize in ortho, neuro, or sports physical therapy and actually get paid while doing it? Brooks IHL offers accredited residencies and fellowships with full salary, full benefits, and real mentorship from clinical experts. Learn more and apply at brooksihl.org. There aren't nearly enough podcasts in this world. Said no one. Why not launch one more? If you thought about launching a show but don't quite know how, we can help you do all that back-end stuff. Email me at jimmy@ptpintcast.com and we can add one more podcast no one else will listen to the pile.